Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of September 12th. I'm Ryan Miller, and somewhere in time is Matt Amberg.
It's 2022.
It's right now.
It's now.
Matt, before I even tell you what show this is, Matt made a valiant effort to record this show not late in the week to break the cycle on Wednesday, and I was the one that messed it up, and now here we are on Saturday.
Hey!
On Book Club for Movies, where we watch one movie a week, and you can too. We invite you to. And then you can find us at podcast at bookclubformovies.com or Facebook and Twitter or Patreon. You can contact us there. I think maybe even without money, but we prefer it if the other way. Yes,
yeah, with money.
It keeps us alive. It keeps the lights on. It keeps the tapes rolling.
I can't get this body without food. And money gets me food.
Why haven't I just been leading with that?
I don't know.
Everybody understands food.
Yeah. And I want some pretty soon.
Also, the addiction I understand the most. Overeaters out there, you're doing God's work. It's fine. We can do this together.
We are. I am.
We are.
Yeah.
During the month of August,
yes.
where we've taken a month, themed it, and then made it go longer than the actual month itself lasts here in September. So far, we've done, not in this order, but in the order I remember.
I can do the order we remember.
Oh.
That is, it's The Umbrellas of Cherbourg
Okay.
once. The Age of Adeline.
Oh, okay.
And
it gets harder the more
and
you...
this week is Somewhere in Time.
Somewhere in Time. And Matt, as he often does, writes his very own synopsises of these movies, says it out loud. This is one of those times. Matt, do you have a synopsis for Somewhere in Time?
Me? Do I? Somewhere in Time? I sure do. It's going to go something like this. Somewhere in Time, coming at you an hour and 43 minutes, written by the great Richard Matheson, directed by Jean-Luc Godard, starring Christopher Reeve, Jane Seymour, Christopher Plummer, and Teresa Wright. This is your Book Club for Movies synopsis for Somewhere in Time. After his first play is a hit, Richard Collier begins suffering from writer's block until he realizes that time is just a construct.
Nice. I'm not disappointed. I'm pleasantly surprised. I thought maybe it was like Richard Collier's Not So Super or something.
I didn't even think about it.
It's good. I think that's good.
I should have referred to him as Clark Kent.
Chris Reeve would approve, I feel like. That's what I think.
I didn't bring anything up. I didn't say his horseback riding is questionable.
Oh, boy.
I didn't. And it's not. It was not his fault.
I was going to say, yeah, was that the issue? I feel like...
It was a pure accident.
You're victim blaming now.
Paraplegic
victim blaming.
Yeah.
This show sucks.
You know, what's he going to do? What's he going to lift a finger? Huh? I dare him. Okay. Too far.
Too far gone. That's what I say.
Too soon.
Chris Reeve. We're gonna, if this has sounded bad so far, it was, but also we are going to, I would imagine, heap praise onto him hereafter. So before we do that, though, Matt, part of this whole August thing was that we were involving our wives, somewhat against their will, but also somewhat willingly. It's been a strange journey this month.
Yeah.
I believe this was Beth's choice this month. That
is correct?
Okay. Does she have anything, like, could you relay any information as to why this was maybe her choice? I know you did a little bit of that last week, but I've asked the same question more than once.
It's about reaffirming what was already stated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think as an investigative journalist, you're doing a great job. But between the two of us, you're the Mark Ruffalo in this news-related movie.
Wait, so I'm searching for the Zodiac.
Or you're trying to find perverts. I don't know. Whatever he does. He's always some kind of investigative reporter that does perverted things.
I guess.
Or searches for perverts.
All right.
Whatever.
But
yes, in relation to perverts, my wife chose Somewhere in Time because she going through the list of movies that she kind of started with, there were a few that I had to again, I mentioned this, that I had to kind of like, I don't want to say veto, but they were not appropriate for the program. Let's go with
10-hour miniseries in there.
It was, you had a couple of questionable ones that were at the 2-hour 45-minute mark, and I was like, I don't know that I love you for that long at one period in one sitting. I don't know if that's how that works. I feel like love comes and it's fleeting. They say that, and I'm like, 2 hours and 45 minutes. I need some fleeting. If you could go away for 20 minutes, come back, we can restart. The fleeting is gone. We're back.
What is August if not a testing of the limits of love, would you say?
And that's those testing the limits of love is the acronym Book Club for Movies stands for, BCFM. Yeah.
And we've found the outside lines. One of them is The Notebook. Just before The Notebook, there's a line.
Yep.
And just after, somewhere in time, it appears. So
it could be. I think that's right. Yeah. But she chose this one because she hadn't seen it in a very long time, and she remembered it being just incredibly sweet, incredibly wholesome, and very, very much so in the vein of kind of the movies that I was almost thinking about a little bit is something like this. And I had never seen it before. So I was, doubly excited about it, that she had a movie that I'd never seen and one that she was pretty jazzed to rewatch.
Yeah, I will say on my side of things, I told Candy about this, and it didn't work out because one of the reasons we didn't record on Wednesday is because I wanted to finish watching it with her and my daughter because I want to get their thoughts and stuff like that. That didn't work out again. We couldn't come together even after delaying the show all the way till now. But I think me and you have come up with an idea. We're going to kind of interview them separately and get their thoughts and throw it up on Patreon. So
yeah,
something will come out after they finish, and it will be about, I think, all of the movies.
All of the movies, yeah.
Ask them, yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to do.
Okay, yeah. So stay tuned for that, or subscribe for that.
Yeah, subscribe for that.
But when I did tell my wife we were doing this, she said, "Oh, that's on my list." Number one, she has a list of movies she wants to watch. So that this was, I thought I was the only one, honestly.
Everybody's got one.
Everybody, man. Yeah. Everybody who's anybody. She had a list. This was on it. And she's like, I also bought the piano music. I've also been playing the piano music in the house without.
That's like, rad. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. She went to school for music theory. So she's always like been that person that knows the piano and can read the music, but isn't like, super great at it. During COVID, she's like, I'm going to get super great at it. So she's progressed by leaps and bounds. And apparently one of those songs I've been hearing has been the soundtrack to Somewhere in Time. So
Somewhere in Time coming at you, an hour and 43 minutes.
Wait.
Sorry.
You almost had me.
I like that you thumbs up. You were like, yep.
I did. I was like, what a perfect intro to the synopsis that we've already done. Fantastic. Matt.
Yeah.
What I do like about this movie, though, is that it has history. Not that the other movies we've done haven't, but this one's got a lot.
The first step in that history comes from the writer of the screenplay who also wrote the story, Richard I Am Legend Matheson.
Yes.
Who has so many, like, now you didn't know.
Okay, I was going to say you mentioned I Am Legend, but I think you left out the
I
really
left out
interesting
tons
ones.
of stuff. Like my favorite part of this was when you said you didn't know the name. I was like, okay, I Am Legend, but you're going to know a bunch of other stuff too. And you're going to go, what?
Yeah, check this out. 16 episodes of the original Twilight Zone, including Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Mm-hmm. Literally the Shatner one with the thing on the wing,
Yeah.
Also, this was an episode of Twilight Zone called Steel. Have you heard of this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Richard Matheson.
About a world where human boxing has been banned and replaced with android boxing. Yes, this is also the movie Real Steel.
Real Steel.
Totally got made into that.
Yep.
Duel was a short story of his, Spielberg's thing. The Incredible Shrinking Man, The Legend of Hell House, What Dreams May Come, and of course, Somewhere in Time, which was called Bid Time Return in novel form, which I actually do like better than the movie title, but I can see why they changed it.
Great title for a story, but yeah, I totally get why. Somewhere in Time, easier to remember and rolls off the tongue a little easier.
Yeah, one of the reasons I like Bid Time Return is because I have no idea what it's talking about at all. But yeah, Jeannot Swark or Swartz. For the life of me, the gold standard when I want to figure out how to pronounce somebody's name is I go on YouTube and I find them saying their own name. Couldn't find one of those this time. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that guy does not exist.
there's a fair amount out there. It's just nobody asks him to say his own name, I guess. I don't know. How did you say it?
I don't remember.
Okay, cool.
Zwerk.
Hot off Jaws 2. So he had some pull. In fact, when this movie itself, Somewhere in Time, got put on the back burner by Universal, I believe it was, because they believed it wasn't commercial enough. Well, like long old list, which kind of might have been right, especially in the end. He was the one that went to them and was like, hey, remember Jaws 2? We're doing this movie. So he got it back on track at half the budget, $4 million instead of $8 million, but he did get it going again. Reeve, of course, was hot off Superman, which I actually thought this was before Superman when I saw it. I was like...
It's like 2 years after it, right?
At the most. Yeah, I didn't track down the actual
So I think
years.
this is 80, I think, and Superman was 78. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, when he was approached for the movie would have been just after Superman. So
Right.
In fact, I did find one piece where Swark basically bets that Reeve was getting a bunch of offers for action movies and would appreciate a movie where he really gets to flex his acting chops, which Reeve famously went to Juilliard. Like, he's one of those actors.
Yeah.
But he was right. Like, and Reeve said the same thing in some of the interviews I found. He's like, I was getting offered all of these action movies. He's like, the thing that was like top of the list that was like the best I could do was this Viking movie. And he's like, I had these images of like myself in that iron helmet with the horns and everything. He's like, and then this script comes across his desk, which not by way of his agent, because when his agent got the request or the pitch, he laughed in their face and said he would never show Reeve the script because it was below him or whatever. So somebody slipped it to Reeve in his hotel room, and when Reeve read it, he called his agent and was like, I'm doing this. So
and also, you're fired.
that became the movie. I don't know. I feel like we've all seen it. Seymour had been in a lot of things already. I'm guessing the kiss of life for her was when she was, in fact, you got to know this. I feel like you know this more than I do. It was when she was a Bond girl in...
I don't remember which movie. It was like Thunderball or something.
Live and Let Die,
Live and Let
actually,
Die.
One of the Roger Moore ones, yeah. The same year, Somewhere in Time came out. She was in Amadeus, so she was kind of, I feel like, already on
Amadeus,
the map.
so good. Great film.
Christopher Plummer, also same,
Christopher Plummer, aka who do we use to replace perverts? We use Christopher Plummer. That's right.
Wow, pervert heavy show today.
Well, remember he replaced that one pervert.
Yes. No,
and then I think he replaced another one too.
Did he really?
I feel like he replaced two perverts.
Is he getting pigeonholed as the pervert replacer?
Yes.
It's one of those shows where his microphone comes flying off of the microphone arm as he's speaking. I live for these moments. It's why I do the show.
I hate you.
Picture it in your mind.
Believe me, they are, I am, and you should.
But that's all I have. That's all I have in the lead up to Somewhere in Time. So if we want to get into the movie now, we can.
Let's get into the movie now.
Now, decree it.
And
what'd you think? Or you hadn't seen it before. I hadn't
not
seen it before.
seen it. Yeah.
We both hadn't seen it before. What do you think?
I think that Beth was right. It's incredibly wholesome. It's a very sweet movie. The concept of the movie is actually pretty great. So the kind of thrust of the flick is that Reeve writes a play and it's very successful. And at the end of the show, during the party, an older woman comes, gives him a stopwatch, or not a stopwatch, gives him a stopwatch. You're gonna die! Run! Gives him a pocket watch. And
8 years later, he's a track star.
He's been running. He's like, oh, I should probably write another play. She gives him a pocket watch and says, come back to me. She leaves. We follow her home. She dies in her sleep, and 8 years pass. Richard Collier, Reeve's character, has not written really anything since. He's going through a really bad bout of writer's block, so he decides to head up to, and this, by the way, is a huge part of why Beth suggested it. It's where he goes. So they go up to what is it? It's Manitowoc Island or something like that.
Mackinac.
Mackinac. That's right.
Mackinac.
Mackinac.
Yeah, but Mackinac Island.
That's right. Mackinac Island, the Grand Hotel at Mackinac Island, which is a real hotel on a real island. Beth is very familiar with both of them. She's
Michigan, I believe, right?
Yeah. Yes, correct. The Michigan. The Michigan J Frogs. Why? By the way, why are there football teams or anything not called the J Frogs?
You lost me at
Michigan J Frog is the name of the hello my baby, hello my honey, hello
is
my
it really?
rabbit. Yeah.
In Looney Tunes?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, Michigan J Frog. So I don't
like
know,
it.
I just don't know why they don't have sports teams called J Frogs.
Or Michigan J, just straight up named after that frog, and he's their mascot. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. But you've already got the state name in the team name. You're like, it's the Michigan J Frogs. It's
so
right
they
there.
could be the Michigan J Frogs.
They could
if they
be.
wanted to
Double it up.
This is a great show so far.
Yeah, I don't know what we're talking about. Anyways, they go up to Mackinac Island, and Reeve finds a painting in the kind of the old section of the hotel.
Photograph.
Yeah, it's an old photograph. That's right. Yeah. And of Jane Seymour, and immediately becomes obsessed with it. He finds that an old professor of his wrote a book about time travel. So he goes and speaks to him, and the professor kind of tells him that he feels like he time traveled once before for a very short amount of time because he willed it. He tried, he thought about it really. It was
kind of hypnotized
himself, and he said it left him very weak, but he did it. And so Reeve goes back to his hotel room. He buys a suit that becomes a hilarious joke throughout the movie.
I actually dug that. I dug it like Back to the Future 3.
Yeah,
he actually got this. Which we're moving kind of quick. If we could go back just a little tiny bit, unless you're working towards something specific.
Yeah, I am. We're getting there.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So give me a moment. I'm giving a deeper synopsis without going into everything.
I see.
So he removes everything from his room, puts a tape player of him talking about going back to 1912, I think is the date. And eventually he somehow hypnotizes himself to go successfully and ends up back in time. And that's when he meets the Jane Seymour character, who is being managed. She's a singer and an actor, and she's being managed by Christopher Plummer, who becomes the antagonist. Not because quote unquote, he's not in love with her. But he is obsessed with her being successful.
Well, to hear Chris Plummer talk about it, he's like, I did, which I don't know why I'm referring, I'm even abbreviating people's names.
You should. We're buddies.
Chris Reeve, I feel like that's he seems like if I met him, he'd be like, please, Chris. Christopher Plummer, probably not so much. But
it's
also,
sir.
You got any perverts you need replaced?
Yeah.
But Christopher Plummer, to hear him talk about it, says that he very much played it as if he was in love with her. Like his character is like, oh yes, he loved her dearly,
of course,
not in the way that he wanted to marry her, but he did love her dearly. Like
sure,
that's how he played it.
But in the movie, he flat out tells Christopher Reeve, "I'm not in love with her. I'm not in love." But you can tell throughout the movie that there is some type of love there, and it does feel familial. It never feels like he wants her. It feels like very, very fatherly in so many ways. But that's kind of the thrust of the movie is that's where it becomes, he meets Jane Seymour, who of course, based on just that discussion that we just had, just talking about this introduction to the movie, I mean, giving the synopsis, she is the older lady that is eventually going to give him the pocket watch, because it's the one thing he brings back, and she actually questions, how did you get that? At one point.
Yeah, I wonder if back then that was supposed to play as a mystery, because this is the thing, actually. One of the things I loved, especially early on about this movie, is I don't feel like any of that was played as an actual mystery.
No.
I don't think it was supposed to be hidden, or we weren't supposed to be able to figure it out very easily, because yes, it's the very obvious first thing you think of.
Yeah.
But still, something about the way it was done and the way it's unfolding, because that's what happens. A lot of the stuff you kind of already know. Like there's very very few things that you don't know what's
Mhm.
going to happen. We'll get there, but even though you know all that, and it becomes largely about the unfolding of it, I was so into it. And I don't even know if I could explain so much why, because at the beginning, it is him just kind of like walking around. Yes, he has that moment where he sees her, she gives him the pocket watch, and he is entranced, and they're like, "Who is that?" And he's like, "I've never seen her before in my life." Just something about the way they unfold the entire thing was so compelling, and I
Sure.
don't know if I can explain or defend it. Honestly, is the weirdest thing. Like director wise, even I'm not even sure. Like I couldn't tell you like how it was shot in a way that made it so compelling. I'm not. It's mysterious. What it is.
Sure. No, I think that this is a case of not only Richard Matheson doing a pretty good job threading that needle, of taking a pretty well-worn trope at that point of the time traveler, falling in love, what have you, and just all of this stuff. Like, it's not anything brand new, like you said, but the way Matheson writes it, and then on top of that, yeah, like partially the way it's shot, but a lot, you've got to give, so much of this movie hinges on Reeve selling the entire concept of him being a writer that is so distraught that he's willing to fall in love with a painting or for some reason, or a picture for some reason, and think, okay, I need to meet that person. And it's that like the brilliance of feeling that connection for so long, and not knowing it.
I guess that's true. Like, really, kind of my feelings are mirroring Reeves' feelings in the film, where he is entranced by, once he gets to the Grand, like on his way to the Grand Hotel. Yeah, it kind of feels like he's just trying to figure out a way to unblock.
Yeah,
but once he gets there, yeah, he becomes obsessed. This is the strange thing, though, I will say, about it hinging on Reeve. I think Reeve obviously is a good actor. Like, in this moment, he's a great actor. Sorry, in moments in this film, he's a great actor. He definitely has moments of brilliance. I think the moment where he does come into contact with that photo for the first time is one of them.
Great shot. Great.
And
scene.
I guess that he actually instructed the crew not to show him the photo. So him reacting to the photo the first time is actually also him seeing that photo of Jane Seymour for the very first time. So that was cool. But there are also moments where it feels like, you ever watch the Mystery Science Theater or Riff Tracks, where Tom Servo or Kevin Murphy just says acting. Like, sometimes, like, it feels like I hear that in the back of my head with Reeve, and I think there's a few moments of that at the beginning of this also with him doing this stuff. And this is the thing too. I never thought, even with Superman, that he was like the best actor. I thought he was the best Clark Kent maybe I've ever seen. And I think maybe that's where it probably approximates who Christopher Reeve was to some extent, because all reports are that he was just the nicest guy, before or after the accident. Like,
Chris Reeve was the Brendan Fraser of his time.
Right. The Reeve-issance.
The
Croissants.
The croissant.
I like it. That actually. Works.
We like food, and we brought it back.
But anyway,
Patreon.com/book club for movies.
But it was a little mysterious even to myself how invested I was in the unfolding of this mystery that I think I largely understood already.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of any acting or even there's a funny part where he becomes so tortured by the photograph and obsessed with figuring out who she was that it feels like 10 minutes. It might have been 5 or whatever. And then he's like he brightens up and he has an idea, and then he goes downstairs and he's like, "Where's the nearest library?" And I'm like, I assumed the library came really early on. Like, it was funny that he was so tortured and obsessed until he remembered a library. So
books.
It still. He's
sitting there thinking, butterfly in the sky. I can fly twice as high. Where's the library?
Still very invested in the movie.
Yeah, what I think I want to say here is I think so. Number one, watching Reeve go back and forth with Plummer, I mean, that's like anytime you have an actor of Christopher Plummer's caliber, and understand, if you do not recognize how good and how big of a star Christopher Plummer is, look at that man's filmography. The guy has
sure.
the guy is a solid, consistent, brilliant actor. And watching those two go back and forth, watching him with Jane Seymour in particular, though, oh man, that is some good stuff. But this movie largely, I think, is cheesy as all hell. and I would say, like, for everything that is good about it, which is lots, I like this movie. It is, I totally get why Beth was like, oh yeah, this movie is not good. And yeah,
I didn't realize that it was I'm recommending this and possibly still like it, but it's not good. I didn't realize it was one of those.
Oh yeah, no. Beth thinks like Beth likes it, and she thinks it's sweet and it is wholesome, but it's like she's like, I think it goes one step too far into getting like it's almost a little too saccharine in the ending and the concept and like how it all works out. Which is funny. Yeah. Which is funny because when she says that, I'm like, really? I don't know that I think that that's quite saccharine, but I see again where she's coming from in how that ending is so, it is so
the very, very ending, right?
The whole thing that leads up to it, it's so cheesy and silly.
Okay.
And no matter how, like, yes, at the time you're watching it, it's, oh my gosh, this tragic portion of the movie. But when you start thinking about it, this is a guy who hypnotized himself, goes back in time, is then forced back into present day for him, and then gets so depressed he just stops eating and just walks around a hotel. Where is the money coming from? He's there for weeks, and I mean, it in the moment as you're watching it, you're invested in it. But for me, definitely when I started thinking about it, I'm like, oh well, that was kind of stupid.
I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. The moments like took a while to think of a library abound. Like when he finally goes to the library and finds a picture of Elise, the caption to that picture says, "This was the last photograph taken of her," yes. Which it reads like screen direction, not like right. I've never seen a photo actually captioned with something like it. It's not impossible, but still, it does create a very strange package, and it's only going to get stranger. Beth, this might be for you, but there was still a moment in this film, for all of its kind of wackiness, saccharine, and other stuff we'll get into. When something clicked, I like doubled the size of my notes. Like something in this movie really set me off, and I'm going to be back on my baloney here pretty darn soon.
Back on my baloney.
Yeah.
That's a shirt. Back on my baloney. Book club for movies.
If we're good for anything, it's shirts. So yes, the functional part of the time travel here is that he needed to remove everything from the room that kind of would keep him in the present. So I was initially pretty vindicated, because as he's having trouble going, you're right, he's got the tape recorder and he's playing it. I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, the tape recorder, man. And technically the lights above your bed are pretty, period inappropriate. They're these sconces,
right?
Or actually, whatever not period appropriate sconces.
Yes.
And then he does, when he goes back to give it a second shot, put the tape recorder under the bed. So I'm like, oh, like I felt a little vindicated at then, even though the lights stayed up. And then he successfully time travels. And then after kind of a wacky little scene where he shows up in a girl's room and he has to hide while the guy comes back, and then he actually gets out of the room. When he steps out into the main area and kind of sees the hustle and bustle of that time period, and it becomes extremely apparent that he has time traveled, boom, Clark Kent is back. And
sure,
it's fantastic. Yeah. It is literally what he does best. Like all his little, like being in that space and making that space more than it is with his acting. it's awesome. Like that, then and there, I was like, okay, like I knew what I was into at that point, whereas before I was just like enraptured at the unfolding of it all.
I love that there is that moment though, and again, I already mentioned it, but I do love that moment where the first time he meets somebody, they mention his suit and they're like, it's about 10 years out of fashion. The look on his face where he's like, I look good is so it's so like the I don't know how to take this, and it's a funny little moment. And then throughout the movie they totally they make fun of him for having a suit that's 10 years old. It's no longer in fashion, and it's just it's a dumb little thing, but it is something that also I think was a nice touch. You know, it makes him stand out even more so in that era, which also works really well.
Yeah. And also I think it's when we get, I think, the true character. It's when we get Richard Collier in actual character, because up until then we get a very quick of him being very smooth it's like an opening of his play or whatever it is, after party maybe, when she comes up to him with the pocket watch. And then we get him... So stopwatch. You're right. Sorry.
Get it right.
And then we get him tortured because of writer's block. It makes it really hard to get a grasp on who the character is early on, which might have actually worked towards the whole mysterious aspect of the thing, but I'm not sure it was necessarily on purpose, because there wasn't a lot to hold on to. When Richard starts to get into that time period and gets some of the goofier stuff with his suit, yeah, I feel like I get to actually know who he is, whereas normally that's something yes, it's something you kind of do throughout a movie, but also up front it's good to have something that you can grasp onto.
But I think that's an important part of the movie too, right? Like, so we see him at the very beginning, and he's comfortable, he is smooth, but he's reserved, he's quiet, he's doing his thing. When he time travels, though, it's there's a moment right at the beginning when he realizes it, where he feels like this is where he should be, and I think that's part of the somewhere in time. I think that's part of the title here.
There you go.
Is that it's of course we're seeing. It's that moment when he, as Clark Kent, he's hunched over, and then he has to become Superman, and he stands up, and he's very tall. But so it's like that combination of things where he was Clark Kent in present day, and he goes back in time and becomes Superman. Like, he's just
okay.
It's like
we're now all right.
Well, because he feels more comfortable. He's not as he's like,
now I understand.
Yeah.
Can you comic book up the rest of it when I get confused?
Absolutely.
Please do prompt.
So Lois Lane and Lex are at this point not completely, like, Lex isn't totally a bad guy. He actually cares for Lois. But
so this is a little bit of Red Sun, maybe.
Yes, and Christopher Reeve is Russian and trying to get them to drink potato vodka.
And man, I feel like I said, we're going to heap praise onto him. Christopher Reeve is still that presence, man. When I saw him and he smiled, I smiled like that, and that was it. Like, there wasn't anything else to it. It's like, he smiles, I smile. That's it. You just cannot.
You're like a little baby with him.
Serious, and it's not even the Superman thing. Like, yeah, it's fun to see him in movies where he's not Superman, but that, like, removed, I feel like I'd have the same reaction.
When I do the comparison to Brendan Fraser, it's funny, but I also mean it in every respect, because when you think about what Christopher Reeve did on screen, he is a classic movie star. He is like Clark Gable. He is Jimmy Stewart of his own era. I was
going to say, for 80s, 90s.
He had that. He had the look, the magnetism, and above so many of those other movie stars of those eras, he was the guy that not only came across as great in person, but on screen he could do anything. And I think Brendan Fraser is kind of that same thing. Like, everybody likes the guy.
Great point. He smiles, I smile.
He smiles, you smile. He's got at the earlier part of his career, he had the movie star looks. He was that action star doing The Mummy and Encino Man. Like, he was doing everything. He was doing all the things Reeve was doing. sans being able to put on the S, right? Like Brendan Fraser needed a superhero movie, and it would have been that perfect comparison.
Kind of was the Mummy, but yeah,
but you know, but
or George of the Jungle, yeah,
well, that's actually more accurate, I think. Airheads is my preference.
Oh, are we going to talk about that for the rest of the show?
We might.
Did you watch it, or did you?
Okay, yeah,
okay,
yeah,
all right,
yeah, I watched it. But he's that movie star, and he has that movie star quality to him. And yeah, I absolutely the same boat, man. When he smiles, you smile. It's just kind of like Christopher Reeve, you know, it's great. And that goes so far in elevating a movie, right? Like this is a movie where put a different actor in that role, and I don't know that it's quite as successful or at all. Like find another actor of that same caliber, but that's not.
Oh man,
you know, like who do you put?
Yeah,
there?
this movie without Christopher Reeve,
1980.
I don't know. Like I probably still would have had the baloney moment that I'm going to tell you about soon. I promise, but yeah, I don't know if it would have been nearly as successful. Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, Gene Hackman.
I mean, I would have loved to watch it, but
What about R.I.P. John Cazale? He would have been great.
What about R.I.P. Jean Walker? Jean Walker. I said he's French.
Sean Walker. Paul Walker. Why not Paul Walker? R.I.P.
Right? Who's John Walker?
I don't know who
Johnny Walker.
John. Yes, the liquor. R.I.P.
Thank you. I'm glad I could bring that up.
What is it? What are we talking about?
We're talking about the movie Somewhere in Time, and I want to not blow past the direction. While I said that I'm not sure I had a good handle on it, I do think it's very good in some extremely key moments. And I guess when I'm talking about direction, I'm talking about also cinematography. One of those is the moment of time travel, which is really done. Like, remember when I said the budget got cut from 8 to 4? Like, I don't know they were going to do a ton with 8 anyway, but man, do I think you can see a little bit of the constraint with 4, but I think they pulled it off. The time travel is done mostly with lighting. I super duper liked it. I had in fact, this is the greatest compliment I can give it. In the moment, I didn't even think that that's how they communicated time travel. It just seemed natural. Like I understood what was happening. It's very, very good in that way. There's also the moment where Christopher Reeve sees Jane Seymour for the first time, or Richard sees Elise for the first time. It's done. He walks outside. There's a reflection in the glass near him.
What
and Elise is
great shot.
Awesome shot. Really cool shot. But then also when he walks up to her, like they take their time with that moment. And to hear Jeannot talk about it, that's a good solution. I'll just say his first name instead of his last name. To hear the director Jeannot talk about it, he's very much understanding of the audience having to earn these moments. So every moment has a build-up like that. And the build-up where they eventually come together is great. And the line that she has when they see each other, she just says, "Is it you?"
I loved that.
And again, another kind of breadcrumb. There's a lot of breadcrumbs that do keep this going and keep it interesting, even though you appear to know most of what's going to happen already. But that breadcrumb was awesome and hilarious, it seems, because in the moment, which I don't know why they didn't retake it, Jane Seymour was convinced that people were too kind to tell her she flubbed the line. But I feel like you would have shot it again anyways, but they kept it and had to dub it in later, because when they meet each other and all that buildup has happened, instead of "Is it you?" she compacts it and says, "Is Jew?"
and
which she's well aware of in the moment and since.
And he says, "Shalom."
Yeah. Muzzle top.
Christopher Reeve replaced by Mel Brooks, or like
we found it.
It's
there it
Shonda.
is.
What are we doing here?
Is it you? Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Here, let me.
It's good to be the king.
Let me find you a Kleenex.
But yeah, there are many, many good moments and decisions as far as that goes. I don't want to blow past that. For again, as silly as some of the other stuff can be.
What is your
that
baloney?
Spark anything in you before I get all?
I want to know about your baloney.
Okay, I was gonna say before I get into the baloney here. So
get your baloney on
pretty soon, because when he's trying to go back in time, he's not successful at first, and so he takes a break, tries to figure out what's going wrong, and one of the things he comes up with is he wants to see the sign-in book. So he goes and talks to, there's a character named Arthur, who is a child back then, and a very old man, bellhop. He's been at the hotel his entire life. Fun little through line. In fact, actually, no, I'll say that fact later. Stay tuned for facts about Arthur.
Art facts.
He asks him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, everything's in the attic." So Christopher Reeve goes up to the attic. He finds the sign-in book and finds where he signed in 1912.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives him the courage or whatever to actually do the time traveling. But then it comes the moment where he has to create that signature in the movie, and it becomes a little bit of a panic moment because he goes to sign in and they give him a different hotel room. So he's like, "What?
No, this isn't right."
And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And then of course somebody comes up and is like, "Oh, sorry, that room's taken. Here, take this one." He's like, "Oh, all right." And well, at first when he's about to sign in, the time is wrong. So there's this weird little panic moment where something he's about to do doesn't match up with what he's already seen. That also, was a linchpin in helping him actually time travel. And what I find myself thinking about is if it's 1 minute off in one direction or in either direction, there's kind of a world in either minute, right? Like everything explodes. Like to me, that's the sci-fi that's actually happening right here.
Yeah.
Yes, everything happens correctly, and he does end up signing, and everything matches. But I'm like, man, what if? And maybe that's the point. Is I'm just supposed to think, what if?
Well, no, but that's like what you're talking about is solidified when he is sucked back to present day, because he is immediately concerned that, wait, if this is wrong, everything is wrong. I'm wrong. I can't be here. And then he does show a big sigh of relief when the right room is given and the time comes along. And what's the thing that takes him back? It's a penny or something.
Yeah. In fact, now actually that you mention it, so that would have, I guess I didn't connect in the moment that it was really kind of this hypnosis thing going on.
That's the Chekhov's gun, man. It's the Chekhov's gun. They're prepping you for it.
Okay. Yes, that makes actually a lot of, I'm spooling out in either direction when it comes to that. But I think also, I don't think I'm completely unjustified because there's a couple.
No, not at all. Come on.
Paradoxes so these are causal loops or ontological paradoxes, right? These are the things that often happen. The big one is the watch, right? Because the watch only exists, that's why it's a causal loop, only exists in the time period between she gives it to him. It just always has been. Like there's no origin for the watch. It exists only in the time period between 1912 and current day when Christopher Reeve gets it, because he just takes it back with him, right? So I do think, and if not, I hope, and if not, I like that the movie is concerned with this idea of what's meant to be, which is fantastic for romance, and I feel like we've talked about serendipity a few different times already.
It's not a great movie, but yeah.
Doesn't have John Cusack.
Yeah, it's still not good.
I proved you wrong immediately. Yeah, I don't know what else.
No, it's not good though.
Okay, sorry, I haven't seen it.
It's not good.
And yes, that shows up in kind of all of these type of movies in one way or another. Mm-hmm. But here it carries that weight of what's meant to be, like what really is immutable almost. And yes, I like thinking about, when he's a minute early or a minute late, and even if it doesn't ever get addressed again, like I think that would have been interesting also. But I do like what the movie does all on its own with those little paradoxes in the way that it's like, it obviously creates this idea of them barreling towards each other in a way that couldn't have been. Although when you start to wrap Christopher Plummer's character into it, because he plays a very fine line when they meet and Jane Seymour says, "Is it you?" It's because she has been told by Christopher Plummer this whole time that a man will come along. So, I mean, the functional thought is that, oh, he's a time traveler too, or something like that. But he's not. He's just a man. Like I said, there's a fine line, so maybe they're trying to draw some ambiguity. But I think he's just a man attempting to control fate.
Yeah,
right?
100%. It's got, like, I never read that as him specifying or even thinking it was Christopher Reeve. To him, Christopher Reeve is just a man. And that's what he's talking about in that situation. He doesn't know it's going to be Christopher Reeve. He's literally talking about any man.
But he plays it perfectly. Like when they have one of those face-offs and he's like, do you know how long I've been with Elise? And Christopher Reeve, or Richard Collier, gives him the exact date for how long he's been. And he doesn't even blink an eye, right? Like, yes, right. I believe that character is just savvy enough to know that a man will come along and try to distract you from your career. Mm-hmm. Like, I believe that's technically what's going on.
Yeah.
There are little nuggets where, well...
could be more.
Anybody should be surprised that he knew the exact date that, they've been together. So played perfectly. Really, really love that part, especially as a foil to Christopher Reeve, because it's a foil on all of those levels, right?
Yeah.
He's attempting to control, whereas Christopher Reeve... I don't have an exact definition because, when it comes to fate or whatever, it's not necessarily that Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour aren't trying to control it, but it's like I said, that sense of what's meant to be. And Christopher Plummer's character is kind of the one messing with what's meant to be,
and because, some of the stuff you just mentioned, I kind of wonder, like, because the movie is playing with that, what if this is just, this is the successful round of him time traveling, of him going through this cycle, like it's that, how many times has he gone through, how many times has this cycle occurred where it was the wrong minute, it was the wrong, this, it was the wrong that, and we just happen to be catching the one cycle where it kind of works out. And even in this case, it's like the worst case scenario is that it doesn't work out, except at the end, right? Where it does kind of work out. But
yeah. And we definitely need to talk about the ending. The way that it all kind of hangs by a thread, I ended up really liking too. It's
let's just spoil it.
And I think it does come from, the kind of panicky moments where it does seem like it won't line up, or there's a lot to talk about that goes absolutely nowhere. with that. And that's why it's baloney, everybody. Yeah.
Bologna!
It is a shirt, man. I think it's I don't know why that's the one that has to happen now. So many shirts. And,
so can we
the one that's going to
we can make like the round cut like slices of bologna meat, except one of them can, like it can be like a film stock, it could be like a film reel.
Film is baloney.
It's true. I've seen Son-in-Law twice. So okay, here's the ending that we've been alluding to, that I've already kind of explained. But everything seems to be going fairly well. Things are happening. Christopher Reeve pulls out money, and in doing so finds a coin from 1981 or whatever year it is, 1980.
I feel like it was
70 something.
Maybe,
yeah, something like that. And he is immediately sucked back in time. And I will say, that scream that Jane Seymour gives off is pretty blood-curdling, horrifying.
The movie turns... I was about to say it turns on a dime. Turns on a penny. Because yes, number one, it's perfectly emblematic, because man, I lost it at the, like, when the dun dun, it's not dun dun dun, but whatever.
It's close.
It's close. I lost it. Because he pulls it out and then it's like quick zoom, dun dun dun, and I lost it. I was laughing so hard. But then also immediately followed by, one of the most harrowing images I think I've ever seen. Because this doesn't happen in the book. There's a few differences in the book that I don't really care to talk about. This is one of the interesting ones to me, because in the book, he just returns while she's asleep. In the movie, we get his point of view, which is her watching whatever's happening to him. And just cinematically, it's like they shrink the frame and it begins to look kind of like what he's seeing begins to turn into kind of like an old timey photo from the 1812 or something. Like it's pretty cool, pretty well done. I like how they do it. But with the screams and everything, I'm like, man, what did she see though? What did it look like to her?
Right.
And it's harrowing, man. It really is. And for a movie that has nothing like that, nothing even close to it for the entire. So I didn't necessarily hate that.
That's love, baby.
That's love, baby. But yeah, I think when we talk about the ending and what maybe we're not so sure about, he does, quote unquote, die of a broken heart. He just stops eating because he's very depressed. He can't get back, which I think we're to understand that it is so exhausting that it can't necessarily be done twice, or I'm sure he would have figured out a way, or however that goes. But eventually dies and reunites with her in heaven. And I can see, or whatever it is, in the afterlife, which we see. So in a way, I can see why they would have done it, because, man, the movie, I'm not that they necessarily had to end it with his death. I guess that's maybe where I would have cut, is with him dying, because we don't want to end with him dying. But also the whole going up to heaven.
You're like, no, I would end with him dying. Definitely. Kill him. It's
pretty saccharine. Like that, if I'm guessing if Beth's referring to anything, that ending is pretty saccharine.
Absolutely.
Did it ruin anything for you? Would you also have not preferred it, or what?
Okay. From the Richard Matheson perspective, this is one of those, I kind of would have rather him gone a different direction with it. But given that this is what we get, it makes sense. It works. I want them to be together at the end of this movie. I don't want them. The last thing that Elise sees is some horrifying thing. What happened? Did he just kind of fold in on himself and then it went pop and he's gone? Like what? What was the last thing? Did he turn into some kind of? Did he explode in a fountain of blood? We don't know.
I mean, we can probably figure it out.
No, we can't. We can't.
Yeah, it's just a lot. It's like I get it's widely accepted, and nobody's gonna have an issue with it. But it's like all at once. It's like the afterlife exists. Yeah, they can see. Like there's a lot that I probably shouldn't be thinking about. But
if you're willing to suspend disbelief for time travel and then not be like, the afterlife is too far. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's.
I think it's just we've been through so many great movies where they don't necessarily end up together. This movie that figures out a way that they don't end up together. That 'tis better to have loved and lost, as you and I notoriously like to say. Maybe just I'm pining for what could have been.
Anything that could have happened and did, but didn't.
Poets.
I know.
The best kind.
I blacked out. I don't know what I just said.
Anything else you want to say about Somewhere in Time?
Somewhere in Time is a movie that occurred somewhere in time, generally between probably 1979 and 1982. If you were looking for kind of a fun romance, kind of sweet story, this is a good one.
Yeah, I would never in a million years say don't watch it, even for all my baloney. Like, you might not get into that as much, but I think maybe it is the budget thing. A lot of films with bigger budgets, which I saw some videos that were like, this started the time travel craze of the 80s, and it's got like pictures of Terminator and Back to the Future. I'm like, I don't know, because also this didn't land. The studio kind of left it out to dry, and there was an actor's strike going on, so Seymour and Reeve couldn't even go out and promote it. So it kind of died on the vine. It has, of course, garnered a cult following, but I'm not sure that it started the whole time travel craze of the 80s in any way.
It's tantamount to pulling out a first edition, like the handwritten copy of H.G. Wells' Time Machine. This started the time craze of 1980. What are you talking about? Shut up.
Yeah. There was a few.
People have been making time travel movies since movie existed.
Also that. But yes, absolutely worth watching. Enjoyed every minute of it. The Grand Hotel continues still.
It does.
They do have a Somewhere in Time weekend on the books this year. It's on October 7th.
We looked at it.
As did I. It's sold out. Who knows when it sells out. It is still the most attended, busiest, biggest event that the Grand Hotel has every year, and that thing is legit. Like, they haven't let it fall into disrepair. Like, go visit the website. It's $600 a night, like normally on a cheap day. So
next year, you and me are gonna go to the Somewhere in Time. We're not bringing our wives. It's just gonna be you and me.
Oh, that would be great, especially if it were on Somewhere in Time weekend. Jane Seymour does pop up quite often. She will be there this year as well. But like I said, it's completely sold out.
Do
So
they ever get
either way.
Christopher Reeve?
He will not be there. He will be there in spirit.
Well, it's just like the movie.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Now
they
I'm
should
really
totally
on
get a
my
hologram of him from that, like the opening portion of the movie. You know, like they did with Coolio or whatever. I don't know who.
Tupac, I think it probably was, but I wish they do with Coolio, still alive. Was recently on Jimmy Kimmel. But
when just real quick, when Tupac was little, was he one Pac, and then did he grow up to be Tupac? And like if he got older, would he have been 3 and 4 Pac?
So if you want more content like this, visit www.patreon.com/bookclubformovies and let us know with your pocketbooks from the 1812s. I would give Somewhere in Time a hefty 69.5 stars.
Out of a very, very expensive 1912 penny.
Excellent. What a month. I hope everybody enjoyed August. And we'll come back for certainly the second iteration next year. This has been on YouTube, at least. I haven't looked at the podcast hosting site numbers, but on YouTube, the best event we've ever had. Most well watched and attended. Yeah, you're shaking your head in disbelief.
I don't get it.
We're so thankful for it. Like even if there's just one person out there having it on repeat, just pumping up those numbers. I don't know what's going on. That one person, those single people, like whatever. You guys are great.
We love you. You're the best, and continue to want to be your friend.
I will say the tail end of July Kwando also seen a bit of a bump. The Fire Down Below not doing horrible. Now you're really shaking your head. So come back next week when we do. Do we know what we're doing next week? You know what we're doing. I feel like you've got a long line that we're not even going to get through before Octoberween fires up again. So tell me, Matt, what are we doing next week?
Next week we are going to do a film starring the it guy right now. He's popular. He was killed it in the Moon Knight television show. He was in the Black Phone doing his good work. And we're going to watch another movie starring the incomparable Ethan Hawke. This time, Ethan Hawke is going to be a cowboy. And it's time for Ethan to fight John Travolta in a valley of violence. Excellent. This is streaming on Netflix right now. It is a movie that I think we're gonna have fun with. There's some cool stuff in this flick. It is directed by Ty West, and I'm bringing that up in particular because Ty West is going to be making another appearance later on in Octoberween.
Oh boy.
Yes.
All right. So we're in the build up to Octoberween already is what's happening, right?
We are.
Okay. All right. So come back next week for that. Again, podcast at bookclubformovies.com, Facebook, Twitter, all of those. We're there. You can't get away from us. We'd love to not get away from you. So check that out. Matt, do you have anything else you want to talk about for the rest of the show?
I just want everybody to stick to us like bologna in a sandwich.
It is sticky. You can throw that up against the wall.
It'll
stay there.
It'll stick, man. It's really rough.
Go to the wall, see what sticks. Yeah.
Hey, Airheads is a funny movie, man.
What? Sorry, Airheads, did you say?
Yeah, I did. I took a
while. I didn't hear you cut out. I didn't hear what movie you said was a funny movie, and I just guessed Airheads. We talked about it earlier, but still, first one I went to.
It's great. I hadn't seen it in a while. Popped it on this week, and man, that movie is so funny. That movie is just so fun. Everything about that movie hits for me. The soundtrack is great. The cast is great. The concept is great. The entire flow of that movie, even when there's one little slowdown, and they make it work by having him being so distraught. He's eating a burrito, and remember they held up the radio station with squirt guns filled with hot sauce, and he's sitting there shooting the hot sauce onto the burrito as he's like eating it and just being depressed. And it's a really great moment of levity for a ridiculous movie that somehow Brendan Fraser makes work. Oh wait, it's because he's a rock star, not only in the movie but in real life. Brendan Fraser.
I don't know that I've seen that movie outside of TV, and I don't think I've seen the whole thing. I don't know.
You really should sit down and watch
yeah,
that.
sure.
Not just but watch that with your kid, with Evelyn, and it's so funny. It's so funny. Like
Airheads, the candy.
Yes, it's just like that.
Which is probably not even a current reference for her.
I mean, they still make it, but
and it's fine.
I can't eat it. I don't like things like that. I don't like the.
It's not like great. Like,
I don't like I don't like taffy and stretchy things like that. Like yeah,
like at all.
No, they like. I don't like the things that get stuck in your teeth. Like they get sticky like that. No,
this is new. I didn't know this.
Yeah, but we can trade. I'll give you the taffy. You give me the chocolate.
So when you get a gift basket in about a week, just send it back at the door if you don't mind.
I throw you the taffy, you throw me the chocolate. I give you the whip, you give me the idol.
Well, that's definitely a bad trade.
Some people like taffy.
I like taffy, not like chocolate like taffy.
Okay, fine.
I love chocolate.
I'll give you all of the fudgy thing. What are they called? Tootsie Rolls.
See, now you've gone.
They're so gross.
It's the worst of both worlds.
Tootsie Roll,
I don't hate them.
They are the worst of both worlds. You know what? I will eat over Tootsie Rolls every single day of the year, of the week, of the minute, of the anything is candy corn. I will take candy corn over Tootsie Rolls.
You like candy corn?
Oh, way over Tootsie Rolls.
You're about to end this podcast, sir, and not this episode.
The whole thing.
Let's save it for another day.
October Ween.
That's your baloney, as far as I'm concerned. Matt, I somehow watched another Jean-Luc Godard movie this week.
Okay, did you do it on purpose or was it accidental?
Well, okay, so I watched it. A lot of times I'll watch movies, and since we don't talk about a lot of the other movies we've watched at the end of the show, we try to keep it to 2 at most. I did not watch this last week. It was a week before that, but still, within such close proximity. He didn't make a lot of movies. He's largely a TV director now. He's still out there and has done like literally every TV. But no.
So how was
and
Jaws
it wasn't
2?
Jaws 2.
I was going to say, how was Jaws 2?
Yeah, no. He directed Supergirl. Did you remember that?
I did not. That movie is a acid trip from hell.
Oh my gosh.
It's so weird.
So
weird.
It is. I didn't think I was prepared for that. Like, I knew it was one of the famously bad movies, so I was kind of expecting some of that, obviously.
That's the thing. I don't think it's bad. I think it's just weird as all hell.
I mean, define bad. Yes, if you gave me bad or weird, obviously I would choose weird. But before I even choose that, I would say
Superman 4 is bad. This is just weird.
There, yes, perfect. Actually, very good. I would say not everything in this movie doesn't work. Obviously, it's taking a lot of cues from Superman, and I will say, you will believe a woman can fly. I think they were well aware of what that movie did right in that respect, and they do actually recreate it pretty well in this thing. Like, there's some legitimately beautiful moments and cool moments. Helen Slater is someone to watch. Like, she's beautiful and fun in this movie. She's a ton of fun in the Supergirl show also, obviously. But yes, otherwise this movie is, and I don't use this term flippantly, it is visitor-like in its execution.
100%.
And which like, obviously French born, but Jaws 2 and Somewhere in Time, not like Frenchy or European movies by any stretch, like whatever that might mean to you. This just feels like a completely foreign production. It is so bizarre. Like some of the stuff like her romantic moment with her guy, like Superman Clark flew with Lois. That's the scene, right? Mm-hmm. She flies with her guy, but he's in like a bumper car. He's in a literal bumper car during that scene. It's so crazy. Like that got through. I don't know. Faye Dunaway. The cast is nuts. Is nuts all by itself.
It's like The Visitor, man. That's a great apt comparison with all the weird casting.
Faye Dunaway, Peter O'Toole,
right?
Mia Farrow, Brenda Vaccaro, Peter Cook. It is such absolute craziness. The Ethan, the guy that does play the love interest, is actually Han Booby from Die Hard.
It's
Yeah.
Booby.
It's such a movie. It is worth a watch still, quite honestly.
Something I'm only mentioning this because you mentioned that. Something that came across my how did I not pick this up for my entire life was we watched Die Hard not too long ago. I didn't bring it up because I'm not going to talk about every time I watch Die Hard. It's a lot.
Yeah, there are some movies where we simply cannot talk about them every time we watch them.
But there is a moment in that movie, and I never picked up on it, but it's when he's talking to Hans, to Gruber, and he says something about like, can I get a Coke? Can I get Coke? And the one dude hands him a Coca-Cola, like a can, and I never realized that he looks at it like, you're an idiot. I meant Coke. Never.
It's not ringing a bell, honestly. Yeah, now
it's
that you mention it.
Very funny. Very funny. So I do have one other movie I want to talk about briefly.
Go for it. Yeah, I have one other too, but it's going to take even less time than Supergirl took. So
okay. So this past week we were tragically given way to death. One of the great French directors of all time, Jean-Luc Godard, passed away. He was 91.
I would not have told you he was still alive. That is insanity. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. So he passed away, and he was one of those directors that, like, when you get into movies at on a certain level, like, you're going to find him because he ended up he was an auteur that helped really popularize and push the new French cinema.
He's the French New Wave guy. Like, you don't get out of any French New Wave class or section without watching. Like, I think we watched 2 of his movies, which we never watched 2 of anybody's movies. You know, there's so many out there.
And he has his influence is consistently felt. It's been felt throughout forever. My favorite Godard influence and reference always comes back to Edgar Wright, where the use of in Shaun of the Dead, the whole you got red on you, because with Godard it was color. It was all about you've got red on you, like when you're bleeding it's red. Then it's mentioned in a Godard film, so it's a direct reference to that.
Didn't know about that. That's cool.
So there's he did a movie called Weekend in 1967, and it was a movie that I had seen in the video store, like right with my pretty soon after getting hired. It was just one of those like things that popped up, and it's a movie about a married couple who are taking a vacation to see their mother-in-law, and they're going to kill them, the parents. They want to kill the parents. That's the goal of the movie. And it's a drama, it's a comedy, but it's mostly French comedy. And it's very good. It's so beautiful. The lighting is insane. The color that again, Godard's colors here are just, they pop. The movie is so funny. It's so wickedly sharp that it's funny. You're gonna laugh. Jean Yannet, I think Jean Yannet plays the main male character. He's freaking great. Muriel Dark, amazing. The movie is just, it's filled with delightful visuals. It was filmed in 67. It feels like it was something that came out of 73, 74. It's like that far ahead.
5 years ahead of its time. What was the name again?
It's called Weekend.
Weekend. Okay.
Yeah, Weekend. I can't recommend it enough. It's I actually picked it up on Criterion when I was at the record store a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
and
went for Real Genius, came away.
Well, no,
Weekend.
I'm going for Real Genius today.
Okay.
Because that just came out. That weekend, I was just out looking for, what was I looking for? I was looking for a copy of a television record, a record by the band Television.
Sure, yes, understood.
And I was looking for Shivers, David Cronenberg's Shivers on Blu-ray, which I found.
The combination, yeah, the thing.
Yes, like they had no television. You know what they also never have? They never have Tribe Called Quest. They never have De La Soul. They never have.
I'm surprised you returned to this store at all.
They never have television. They never have Vox. They never have like Ultravox. They never have like a whole bunch of stuff. They never have Murder City Devils. Nothing.
Yeah, come down. We'll go to Amoeba.
Dude,
get you everything you want.
I after watching that one record that I sent you that I saw from the record by the band Tennis, which still just playing consistently. I totally heard about that because Amoeba has a stupid web show called What's in Your Bag.
What's in Your Bag?
And Matt Berry had that band, and I went, well, if Matt Berry likes them, I'll give it a shot.
Bat. Yeah, I know.
By the way, did you see the article about how that came up? The whole bat thing?
Somebody shared it. Yeah, I think I saw it going around. Yeah.
And that he was just like, I was just using it as a placeholder for them to know I'm turning into a bat. Bat!
Excellent. Yeah, so the only other movie, again, super duper quick, because there's not honestly much to it. Have you ever watched Europa Report?
That movie has been sitting in a queue for me for so long.
It's good. Second time I've seen it, it's good. I didn't remember much from the first time around. It's short. It's like 80 minutes if that'll help you watch it at all. It's
got
very short.
Charlton Copley in it, right?
It does. Charlton Copley, Michael Nyquist, Christian Camargo, and Daniel Wu actually from Enter the Badlands.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. It's a quick little kind of found footage editing puzzle that doesn't have a ton of surprises. Like even the very end, you kind of know what it's going for, but it's very well made, very well put together. A little space thing. It's about a crew that goes to Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter, and because, in fact, I remember this at the time. I think it was either news at the time or current. I don't know, but the thing about Europa is they believe it functions a lot like Earth, with instead of the rock and lava, it does it with ice and water, like tectonic plates and stuff like that. So also water, one of the things they think is most conducive to the formation of life, especially when there's heat, which there's likely to be at the center, blah, blah, etc. So yeah, I believe when that was all going around, when that was big in the news, this thing came up. But it's not like, it doesn't lean on that at all. It's just a fun kind of little background that a movie is constructed. Like I said, editing wise, it feels like more of an editing puzzle than anything, because it is found footage. They're using cameras that are placed around the ship, and what happens. It's good. It's good. Yeah, you'll enjoy it 100%.
Apropos of nothing, but also kind of tangentially related.
Yeah, I feel like now when you say that, it's like you're calling it out. I feel like it's apropos of something every single time. I can't shake it.
It is. Apropos of the editing puzzle, there's a game on Game Pass you might want to check out.
The new Sam Barlow.
Immortality.
It's making the rounds, man. People like that a lot.
It's super interesting. The concept behind it is simple. The function of it is simple, and it is really, really interesting. So it's you're given a moviola machine essentially with a full editing capability on these. Well, full editing capability.
Right, yeah.
It's actually full review capability, because that's what you're doing. Is you're reviewing footage it's all live action footage from movies, and as they're being filmed, because you're trying to figure out where this actor she disappeared to. And it's super cool, man. And the game does not hold your hand. It gives you a very quick tutorial, and then it's like, go figure it out.
Yeah. Welcome to Zero Hit Points. Yeah. So I want desperately to play those games, but they're such an investment. Like they demand a lot of the player, and I like that. Like I don't want them to be different so that I will play them or anything like that. But yeah, I don't often find myself in the headspace or even just ability to sit down and play one of those things, because the whole thing, like I played Telling Lies a little bit, which was his follow-up to Her Story. Like that was when he hit, right, Sam Barlow. And even just playing that at PAX, in that booth, I'm like, I love what this is doing. I would love to have the time to sit down and figure out like what the heck is actually going on. But I hope someday I do. But as it stands, happy to hear about it.
Yeah, it's entertaining. It's very entertaining.
All right. Hey, look at that. That's a full show. This has been a full, beautiful show.
Episode done.
at Book Club for Movies. If you want to reach us, you can. As always, like I said, podcast at bookclubformovies.com or Facebook and Twitter or Patreon. Please throw something in the tip jar. We appreciate it. And we'll be back next week with...
In a valley of violence.
A valley of violence. Is this violence? Does it look like violence to you? What's violence? It's my Ed Harris. Do you like it?
That's good. That's good.
I didn't have a glass, but...
You sound just like him in The Rock. And by that I mean, like, if The Rock ate Ed Harris, you sound like what it would sound like if he was talking.
If he was,
out,
yeah.
like,
We're closer to that than we are the actual Rock, so... I'll take it. See you next week.
Bye, Dwayne!